All right. Good morning, Doug. We're back, and today silver breached $100 an ounce. Gold is knocking on 5,000's door. What do you make of these markets right now?
Well, frankly, I'm surprised, albeit very pleasantly surprised, that they've gone so far so fast. And all those pet rocks that I've been sequestering for many, many years are finally worth something.
They're
So,
good pets. Good pets.
yeah, I'm very pleased. And the question is, okay, what do you do now? Should you sell and take profits? Uh, I don't think so, because it's hard to say after so many years of diddling with the currency and no, look, there are gold and silver are overpriced relative to everything else in the world. They were underpriced previously. So it's hard for me to buy more of something that seems overpriced relative to things in general, houses, cars, food, so forth. But there are good reasons why they're going to go higher. So
When you
I'm
say
not
that
selling, sure.
they are expensive relative to most things, but relative to something gigantic like the credit markets.
That's the key. And they're trading as monetary instruments. That's why platinum and palladium and copper aren't really running with them. So I'll continue to hold. And if I get a chance to buy some more with some spare cash, yeah, I'll do it. But
I mean,
I'm really interested in the mining stocks, which are just unbelievably lagging. I mean, I was talking to one of my brokers this morning who's actually quite a maven at digging into obscure companies. He specializes just in late stage developers and producers. But there's one that this coming year is going to be selling for 4 times free cash flow. That's really cheap. What are they going to do with the money? Well, looks to me like with most of these companies, they'll either be doing massive share buybacks or instituting dividends, which are going to grow. And the public is totally uninvolved in these stocks. I mean, people that subscribe to our newsletter and a few others are aware of this, but the public at large is totally unaware of the existence of gold and silver stocks, any mining stocks, frankly. They see them as uh, basically being evil, raping Mother Earth and despoiling native groups and fighting with the nice NGOs and all this type of thing. So they don't own them, and the institutions don't own them either. So they're really, really cheap, even though a lot of
yeah,
them have gone up
they're
quite a bit
cheap.
already.
They've gone up quite a bit already. Like I mean, my portfolio is up 30% year to date. Year to date, it's January 23rd. I mean, it's actually
Yeah.
so much that it makes me uncomfortable because of the rate of it. So yeah, if you're
Well, you
interested
weren't
in,
you but you weren't involved with these crappy little stocks back in the 70s and 80s and 90s when the group, all of them, would go 10 to 1. Your portfolio would go 10 to 1. And some stocks would go 50 to 1 or 100 to 1 or more. And it's going to happen again. I'm absolutely convinced of it. So be right and sit tight.
which is why you should subscribe to Crisis Investing, and you can get a newsletter where we make recommendations of particular stocks. So
And also, I think this is almost as important. You should tune in to the experts roundtable where companies sit down and have a dozen geologists and mining guys and newsletter writers that really know about these things, ask them questions, and then discuss the company afterwards so that it's quite educational. Like the one
yeah,
we the other day
yeah,
on,
it hasn't been. I haven't published that one yet. That's gonna be published on Monday.
well, I think it'll be very interesting listening to the company's answers and what guys thought of it afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, the
And
best part, I hope people make it to the end with all of these, because the best part is just the company goes away and you have all these experts talking it through, you know? And it's the last one especially was fantastic.
fantastic, because this company first came to my attention when it turns out they have a $6 million uh, market
Market
cap,
cap.
which is like nothing. And they have a drill hole of 100 feet of 6% copper, which is bonanza grade. Uh, and lots of other drill holes, 40,000. I mean, this is a genuine anomaly with a 6 million in this market to have a $6 million market cap with all this. So what's wrong with this picture? I mean, it's either a fraud or a long ball home running that's staring us right in the face while we get into that.
Yeah, we get into it. It's really, really, really an interesting and enjoyable conversation. So that'll be out on Monday. I'll include a link in the description of the video for where you can find Experts Roundtable. It's expertsroundtable.substack.com. There's all of our past ones are published there. If you sign up for the list, it's free. You'll be notified whenever we do a new one. But the most recent one will be out on Monday.
It's quite it's quite educational, so that if you listen to a few of these things, the presentations the companies make and the questions that the experts ask and the discussion among the experts after the company's gone, it's quite educational.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. Okay, Doug. So just some sort of political news. What do you think of Trump's standing ovation he got after his WEF speech? It's kind of,
Hmm.
people are expecting conflict and confrontation going into that.
Well, look, WEF, the World Economic Forum, is full of sycophants and opportunists, however rich and powerful they might be, basically disgusting, contemptible people. And they will sop up to anybody who is powerful and looks like he's in an uptrend. And that certainly is the Donald at this point. And if it wasn't the Donald, it would be somebody else that they would be equally lickspittles to. So, and as we were talking about earlier off camera, it's that these people, uh, they're not against Donald Trump because he's one of the crowd. And they love him because he shows what power, and in other words, they're in the same money and power position, just not as prominent as Donald. And when he does stuff, it acts as an impetus for them to do the same thing, justifies for them to do the same thing on a smaller level. So they're all part of the same big club, and we ain't members.
We certainly are not. We're not. Okay. Other thing you brought up, and I'm not sure what it is you want to talk about with it, but oh wait, first the Board of Peace. You had some comments on the Board of Peace.
Listen, Donald is absolutely amazing. He's he's rounded up 20 countries. And if you look at the list of 20 countries that he's rounded up, they're all backward third world countries. The one that I found most interesting is his BFF. I don't know how long that's going to last. BFFs don't last forever. But Malaysia, Argentina is on it. And they're all supposed to pony up $1 billion to join the Board of Peace. They're all,
Malay found $1 billion.
that's right. I mean, what happened to Noai Plata and all that? So uh, I think it's really stupid. Well, who knows? Maybe it's strategic because somehow the Donald will reward him even more for it. But he's got basically 20 nothing nowhere countries signing up for his Board of Peace.
Yeah, I'll just go through the list real quick. Albania, Argentina, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Bahrain, Belarus, Bulgaria, Egypt, Hungary, Indonesia, Israel, Jordan, Kazakhstan, Kosovo, Kuwait, Mongolia, Morocco, Pakistan, Paraguay, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and the UAE. Oh, sorry, a couple more. Uzbekistan and Vietnam.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so the word is out there that the Board of Peace Trump wants that to replace the UN. And I'm all for the disbanding of the UN, which is nothing but a totally corrupt social club for totally corrupt officials that love hanging out in New York, making a lot of money and trading favors with each other to the extent that they can. It serves absolutely no useful purpose at all, except looting taxpayers of the different countries to subsidize it. So yeah, disband the UN, or at a minimum, the US should get out of it. Uh, and if it did, it would collapse. And so maybe Trump is, you know, partially to aggrandize himself more, because this is all about Donald. He wants to be emperor. He really wants to be emperor of the world. He really does. He's a genuine narcissist, a genuine megalomaniac. And the more power he gets, the more he thinks he deserves and can handle and wants. So his board of peace, I think, is going to be like a UN substitute or competitor. And hopefully the UN goes away. And the
Mm.
board of peace will fall apart after Donald leaves office too. But anyway, I don't care.
Yeah, and as recall, what we discussed last week when it was first announced, these sort of principal board members, you got private equity guy from Apollo, and you've got Tony Blair and Kushner, his son-in-law, and his real estate compadre. What's his name? The guy who does all the diplomacy for him. In Russia and also Iran. I can't remember the guy's name.
What's his name? Yes.
Witkoff, Steve Witkoff.
Right.
Yeah. So it's, the whole thing is, it's funny and entertaining at the same time.
I mean, if you put this stuff in a novel, people wouldn't believe it. Anyway, whatever it is going to fall apart after Trump leaves office. And of course, I understand he's joked that he wants to have a fourth term, not just a third term. He
Well,
doesn't,
if you do the Insurrection Act for some reason, if this stuff expands, I mean, it's terribly cold in Minneapolis for them to have any sort of street protests. But imagine by the time summer rolls around, you have some violence, you get the Insurrection Act, and you can't just like the standard being set by Ukraine. You can't really have elections during such social turmoil.
no, you can't, but maybe there won't be too much social turmoil just because so many of these people are on psychiatric drugs. Like a quarter of the US population, I believe, is on anything from Prozac to Ritalin to Zoloft and more than 100 of these things. So that slows people down a little bit. And everybody else is on pot, and not just the mild pot that they peddled during the 60s. This is powerful stuff that will definitely, fuck up your mind and your perception. So I don't know if that tends to make people less apt to go out and riot. I don't know. It's hard to say.
That's true, but we had BLM not long ago. Remember, it was.
That's that's true. And exactly who are those people? I mean, precisely who are they?
Don't know. Just like in the Antifa, people who just sort of materialize, in different places at different times. It's it's hard to know. Seems clearly they're
I,
funded and trained and whatever.
I presume a
So
lot of them are college age kids that have been corrupted by the fact they've gone to college and been lectured by their Marxist professors, which they almost all are today, quite frankly.
yeah, yeah. The other thing you wanted me to bring up was these 37 cartel members being extradited from Mexico. What was it about that?
Well, the thing that interested me about that is how the US is asking the Mexican government to round up Mexicans doing business in drugs in Mexico and bring them to the US to be tried and imprisoned. And of course, this whole thing with the drug war, uh, like the 80 people that have been killed in these, how many drug boats that
Yeah, I
some
think
of
it's over.
them,
Yeah, it's over 100. I think.
yeah, whatever. I'm sure there's more all the time. Nobody's talking about the fact that, well, why is this happening? It's because we're having a second prohibition, similar to what happened with alcohol during the 1920s. And there was, there's always a problem with addictive personalities. and people that are just unhappy with their lives and therefore want to quash the pain, quell the pain by getting screwed up on alcohol or drugs. Okay, you're always going to have people like that. But the fault is not the people importing it. The fault is the general state of the society that people are that screwed up and want to basically kill themselves. So my solution to the drug war is it's your body, you know, your body. You do what you want with it. And if you wind up sleeping under a bridge, that's okay. That's fine. I mean, but
Right.
drugs should be legal, and the cartels would disappear because there'd be no profit in it. And the people that kill themselves, 50,000 people a year, they say die on fentanyl. Hey, I'm very sorry for them, but we all got to die sometime. And why should these people be kept alive? And the drug war and the DEA, it all should be abolished and let people do what they want.
But
I
if
mean,
they got rid of that,
drugs were not
where,
a problem before the Henderson Act in 1914. Alcohol, always a problem, still is a problem, but not a problem before they had prohibition. So this is the source of the thing.
if they got rid of, if they made all drugs legal, though, Doug, how would the CIA get its black budget?
Well, that is a problem, I guess. They
Yeah.
might have to do without.
Well, I don't know if that's possible. I don't think they're willing to do without. So there's that. And then the second thing is, I think the main super important point you're making is that it's a symptom of a sick society,
Yeah,
a society that has serious problems that no one is bothering to look at that and trying to understand it. Instead, we get caught up in, Somali daycare scams, which is also a symptom of a sick society,
yeah.
you know. So anyway,
Well, if Trump diagnoses that the real reason is that we have a sick society, I just hope they don't start another agency to, cure a sick society. They'd call it something like the the National Health and Wellness Agency or something like that, and fund it with tens of billions of dollars to.
he did say we're going to reopen insane asylums.
Yeah, I remember when they let all the people out of these loony bins and they were on the streets. It was quite disconcerting.
Mm.
Washington, D.C., you could see them everywhere. I don't know where they all went, frankly.
Where they all went, yeah, but yeah, I mean, it's most of the people you see that are homeless, right? It's either they have drug problems or they have
That's
mental
probably
illness.
who
Yeah,
they are. Yeah, they're the
yeah,
homeless now, right? Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. So just kind of going around the world, Doug, I'd like to get your comments on these different territories and your thoughts on it. For starting with a major topic of Trump's speech in front of the World Economic Forum, which is Greenland.
Yeah. Well, there's nothing of value in Greenland except possible mineral rights. And apparently that's part of the deal, is that the US controls the mineral rights. Do I understand that correctly?
Are you talking? I'm not sure which deal you're talking about. So I've seen a couple floated, but nothing in the last 24 hours. I haven't seen enough news. So
Well, he wanted to merge Greenland into the US,
yes.
but that's not going to happen. But apparently, there are two elements of this. The US is going to um, have complete free reign militarily, but also the US controls the mineral rights of Greenland, at least as I understood it.
Mm. I
What,
yeah.
what,
I,
what did you get?
all I heard is that there was, I saw a Trump tweet that apparently he'd sat down with Ruta, the guy in charge of NATO, and it figured out that they had sketched out a solution. So I hadn't heard the details as you just described yet. I just heard that the deal, though, was made between the Secretary General of NATO and Trump.
Anyway, it doesn't matter because whatever Trump gets, uh, if he decides that he wants more, he'll take more. And there's nothing they can do about it. So this is academic, and the 57,000 or however many Eskimos that live up there, I guess they can like it or lump it, but he'll bribe them with 50 or 100,000 bucks a piece. And it is interesting. If you want to, if the imperial U.S. wants to take over another piece of real estate, uh, frankly, we've typically bought most of the land area that was not owned by the original 13 colonies. The most famous, of course, was Louisiana Purchase from Napoleon in 1813 when he was hard up for cash. That was one. Florida was purchased from the Spanish. We
Right.
didn't conquer it, we purchased it. There was the Gadsden purchase after the Mexican-American War, where we did conquer most of the Southwest from Mexico in the Mexican-American War. But there was some leftover land in Arizona and New Mexico, and that was purchased from the Mexican government in 1857 or something like that.
Mm.
Um, and I didn't know this, but when I was researching it a bit, we actually paid the Spanish for the Philippines after the Spanish-American War. I didn't know
I
that,
didn't know that. Yeah, I didn't know that either.
but that's apparently the case. We gave them $20 million, which is to say 1,000,000 ounces of gold, which is to say $4 billion. Anyway, that's what the Spanish took for the Philippines. And of course, Hawaii, we did conquer that. That was a shameful conquest of, Hawaii was, that was, but so that's how the US has grown.
And then
And
Alaska too, right?
Alaska purchased from the Russians. I forgot that, of course, that's a biggie. So,
Yeah.
if he buys Greenland, well, probably a good deal. I mean,
It's been done before. That's for
been
sure.
done before. But
Yeah.
I'd rather see Greenland be an independent country, quite frankly.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm not sure how the 57,000 people really feel about it. I've heard mixed reviews, but either way, they probably don't like their fate being decided above
Yeah,
and beyond them like that.
yeah. Well, they can take what they get and be happy with whatever table scraps are thrown their way. That's the way it's been throughout history. I mean,
Uh,
so anyway, that's Greenland.
and
And
so
Cuba,
Cuba, yeah,
yeah, that's kind of interesting because I've been to Cuba 4 times over the years. Uh, I mean, one time thing, this was just after the Soviet Union fell, where there was really no food. I mean, people were starving there at the time. And it was kind of a semi-state dinner that we had where they found a boat that had gas. They could go out and catch a few grouper for us to have for dinner. And we had the grouper and Spanish olives. That was our dinner. And it was supposed to be a big deal dinner.
wow.
So things have been bad in Cuba forever. And I'm sure now that the Venezuelans aren't supporting them anymore, there'll be a change of government in Cuba. So that's a plus. That's a plus. And
And
then Iran, that's the next one I'm thinking of. Uh, my guess is the way this is going to turn out is that Iran's going to break up because it's sure about 40% of the population are ethnic Persians, but the rest of the country are all kinds of people, Arabs and Azerbaijanis, and they'll break up into separate countries as they should. And that pretty
will it
well
break up?
solves the problem.
Will it break up without U.S. military intervention?
Yes, because US military intervention is something that will unite these people, I think,
Mm.
more than anything else, or create a catastrophic civil war. Who knows where this goes? But it's natural that these people break up with their compadres that share linguistic and ethnic characteristics.
Mm. So you think if you just left it alone at this point, I mean, left it alone, it'd still be in its state of where all the economic sanctions are on it, really kind of grinding them down. But just in that situation, if you just left it status quo, you think it would just collapse into pieces of different groups.
I kind of think so. This is speculative on my part, but news reports say about 5,000 people have been killed so far. estimates vary widely, so that there's a good chance it'll fall apart. But
Hmm.
on the other hand, if you have control of the instruments of the state, the army, the police, the secret police, you can keep yourself in, I don't know, it's chaos.
Maybe you can keep yourself in power in at least one of those breakaway areas, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
that's at a minimum, right? So anyway, that might solve the problem, certainly from Israel's point of view. Uh, and Panama, we haven't heard anything about Panama recently, but I'd say the odds of the U.S. retaking the Panama Canal Zone are about 100%.
100%. What makes you think that?
Well, the U.S. was responsible for the creation of the country of Panama, which was
Hmm.
split off from Colombia, and the creation of the canal zone. And it built the canal at its own expense. And really, there was no justification for Carter to have given it to the Panamanians. It should have been privatized, frankly, but become part of the U.S. I mean, anyway, there's lots of ways you can rationalize the Panama Canal Zone anyway, being subsumed under the U.S. umbrella. So I think that's going to happen.
So just especially given Trump's view of the world and, asserting authority over places, it just makes sense naturally that this is one because as Michael Yan talks about, it's a critical transit area. It's super critical to world trade. And so if he's going to go after anything in this hemisphere, you'd have to imagine that being one of them.
Yeah, no question about it. Entirely apart from the fact that Trump wants to put his name in as many history books for as many reasons as he possibly can. I think
Right.
that underlies a lot of this, frankly.
Maybe he can
Uh,
rename it the he's got some clever name for the Panama Canal, changing it. The Trump Canal, the Gulf of America Canal. I don't know, something.
he'd love to further aggrandize himself somehow. I'm
Yeah.
sure he'll find a way. I mean, I'm still shocked that he renamed the Kennedy Center the Trump Kennedy Center or whatever it's called.
Yeah. That's
So,
pretty shocking.
I mean, that's his modus operandi. Uh, and what else do I got here? Oh,
Alberta, you wanted to talk about. Yeah.
yeah, Alberta. That's always been my favorite province in Canada. It's always been the part of Canada that's the most friendly towards free market ideas, farmers, miners, oil
Productive
guys,
people.
productive people, right? And Alberta's always been used as a milk cow by Ottawa to subsidize welfare in the other provinces, not least of which is Quebec, which should have exited Canada long ago. I mean, it doesn't belong in the rest of Canada. So I think Canada is going to break up. And there's apparently a vote being taken in Alberta now
Right. It's a
where
petition, I think. They have to
petitions,
gather
yeah,
175,000 roughly signatures, which doesn't sound like that'll be a problem. And then it gets like a referendum.
yeah. And I hope the Albertans do the right thing. And what I'd suggest is the right thing for them to do is become an independent country, not join the US as a 51st state. But as long as they get out of Canada, which will be an impetus for the rest of Canada to break up. I mean, certainly the Quebec independence movement might be reinvitalized since their net welfare.
Right. If they lose the milk cow over in Alberta, they'll have more incentive to leave.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And, British Columbia should leave. I mean, Canada is not a real country, it's an artificial construct. So that's a good
Hmm.
thing. I'm happy about that. Um, and talking about uh, countries breaking up, what about this Gaza thing and the peace board? It, it's amazing to me that Trump was basically begging for a Nobel Prize, which does he deserve it? Of course not. Probably, probably more than Obama deserved it before he even got into office. So it's the Nobel Prize, Peace Prize is a fraud. I mean, you look at the people that have got it in the past, it's just it's a political popularity contest. It's a worthless prize, frankly. And then he gets that poor woman from Venezuela to give him her prize.
So he gets it
He accepts it.
secondhand.
He accepts it. I mean, the guy is pathological. It's it's amazing. The guy's amazing. So
Yeah,
what else?
I have this little clip of Jared Kushner. I haven't even watched it yet, but I bookmarked it in Twitter where, he's talking about the border peace and basically presenting his master plan, for Gaza, for the new Gaza and new Rafah.
Yeah, I've seen the AI creations of what they hope to do in Gaza. Well, what about the people that live there? Do they have any property rights? I mean,
Well, no, the land was promised to a different people, thousands of years ago. So
yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. So what are they going to do with those Gazans? Where are they going to move them to? Maybe Somaliland, huh?
Somaliland seems like it's the ticket. It's the best
Yeah.
thing out there right now. Yeah. So it's,
Here,
I mean,
take this and you'll own nothing and you'll be happy.
right. And, it starts in Gaza and it ends in, I don't know, it ends in Illinois. I don't know. The thing is that we are in a time period where absolutely anything is possible. Like
Yeah.
anything can happen. There's the Overton window is shattered, I think, for the possibilities about what might occur next, whether that be, a nuclear annihilation or it be, resurgence of good manufacturing jobs in the U.S. I mean, like anything is possible at this stage.
Yeah. It really is. As I think back during my lifetime anyway, this is impresses me as the most tumultuous period ever.
The most consequential
Yeah.
and the most dangerous.
Yeah. Even more dangerous than the Cuban Missile Crisis, which almost launched World War III back then. Yeah.
Wow, that says a lot. Well, we got some questions for you, Doug. If it was just a half a dozen or so here, I'd like to get through. If you have questions for Doug, if you're a subscriber to Crisis Investing, you can just message me directly your question and I can jot it down. Otherwise, you can do it through our file app. So let's see, Doug. First question is about this guy, Michael Every. He's a global strategist for Rabobank, and he says that Trump is the new Gorbachev implementing reversed perestroika. Perestroika. I can't say it right.
Perestroika.
Yeah, I can't.
Oh, yes.
So he says, Doug says that Trump is the new FDR. Who is more accurate and why?
Hmm. Well, Gorbachev saw that he had a real problem and tried to solve the problem through perestroika. And what was the other Russian term for the other thing? Openness and was perestroika. Anyway, he did the best with what he could, which was a failing empire, the Soviet Union, but it didn't work out. I don't know. I guess they're comparable. They're two guys that are. I think Gorbachev was trying to do the best that he could under the circumstances to save a collapsing empire, and Trump is trying to expand a collapsing empire by adding new possessions and spending money hand over fist. He doesn't understand the concept of bankruptcy, either in his personal life, what served him well, or what he's doing with the U.S. So I don't know. What do you think? Are they more comparable or not?
Well, I
Gorbachev.
think I think that to think of him as the the Trump's doing a reverse of that. Yeah, I mean, he's going to try and close from the economic perspective. He's trying to close, versus opening things up. So that makes sense. But as far as I think it's a far better precedent to think of him as FDR personally, just because I think that he's going to fundamentally alter the nature of the relationship between citizens and the state. And I think regardless of whether or not he does the reverse Gorbachev, if he succeeds in that or not, the bottom line is it's going to fundamentally alter the relationship in the U.S. And only and FDR is the guy, Lincoln. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, he's going to try to reform it in the way that he thinks best because he's the new God Emperor. So who knows what he's going to do because I think he's a pathological personality, however charming and amusing he is.
right. No matter what, nothing will be the same as it
No,
was. You know, and this is you say this was already true. Post COVID, nothing will ever be the before times. So the before times are gone, and Trump's just going to further validate that. I think.
yeah, yeah. Can't wait to see what comes next.
Yeah, it's exciting stuff. It's hard to keep up with the news. So let's see, Doug, David Rogers Webb, who has the same deep insider experience in finance as you and is now warning about the great taking, consciously chooses to stay in Europe. In a recent clip, he literally says, I choose to be in Europe. Why do you think he's making that choice instead of moving to Argentina or Uruguay, like you recommended, and partially live yourself? Does he believe the real fight has to happen at the heart of the system in Europe with the EU, central banks, and collateral rules? Or do you see risks there that he might be underestimating?
Well, we had him on a Zoom call that I'm a member of. I guess I could reach out to him.
Well, I've
to
talked
ask
to
him.
him. I've talked to him. Yeah, we text
You
back and
have.
forth. Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
can you get back and find out what's on his mind, why he thinks that? Because I don't know why anybody do that.
Well, he did say to me once that it's important to pick a pick the place where you're willing to die. And so his particular setup in Sweden, which is where he's based, is he has a like a homestead. He's in a safe place there. He's got his needs can be met. He's got some independence there. So I think he just made his selection originally, as I understand it, because these rules around the great taking had not yet been implemented in Sweden with regard to like Swedish bonds. And so like there was this, there was something enshrined in law that kept this great taking from affecting those assets. Since then, that has been lost. But I think he, established himself there, and it's like this is the place. So I just think he's not running anymore. He's just he did that going to Sweden, and he's kind of said this is the place for me, is the way I understand it.
Well, okay, that makes sense because certainly when you get to a certain stage in life, you don't want to constantly be pulling up roots and going someplace else. It's very inconvenient and disturbing. So that being the case, I don't think he's chosen wisely, but we all have to make a choice, and there's not many really wise choices on the global map today, frankly.
No, and there are worse places to be than especially where he is in Sweden. There are definitely worse places to be in Sweden and in the EU generally. So yeah.
I wonder how he is positioned asset wise, because feeling the way he does about the great taking, the only thing that you can really own is perhaps your household and a bunch of gold and silver coins.
I suspect that, and also some stock certificates that have basically been pulled out of this the DTCC. So they've been, they've some non-dematerialized stocks that he has the certificates of, in his name. That so if the great taking occurs, he still has, basically his assets are not being used as collateral, as ours are.
Yeah.
So that's the way I understand it. But yeah, I could ask him to be on with us. I mean, I like him a lot. I think he's a really good guy, and he went to extraordinary lengths to try and resolve this problem that is baked into the law, spent the last year going to several states, lobbying states on changing the UCC regulations, just making it clear that somebody's private property was their private property. But in every case, it was thwarted by the banks there. That,
Mhm.
everyone was open to the idea in the legislature, and then the next day the banks swoop in, and I don't know how they convince the legislators behind the scenes, but when it comes down to a vote, never makes it out of committee or whatever. And but he at his own expense of his time and energy, like, was trying to fix a problem. Like, he was sincerely trying to fix it. And so you don't see that very often. It was very courageous of him, frankly, to do what he's done.
Good point. Yep, I'd agree. Well, it's an argument for having more gold and silver coins in your own physical possession.
Yep. Yep. Oh, one thing I was going to say earlier is when you said gold's expensive. I bought some gold coins last week for $4,600, and it's now a week later, 49.86. You know, I mean,
And I don't know where it's going to be a year from now.
but it's
Oh,
crazy that
well,
it's gone up as much as it has in a
it
week.
really
I mean,
is. Well, generally speaking, with commodities, the higher they go, the less you want to own them because more will be produced. However, with gold and silver, they're anomalous that way. Uh, New production is meaningless for gold because almost all the gold that's ever been mined is in existence someplace, and meaningless for silver because you can't produce more except from pure silver mines. So they're different.
right. And like everything else in mining, it's been underinvested in over the last couple decades. So,
Yep.
okay, next question is, Doug, you've been many years in the newsletter industry. Do you believe a marketplace to invest in newsletters or media outlets, perhaps pooling writers by theme, is an interesting venture?
No, I don't. Uh, because newsletter writers that become part of a larger company tend to be influenced, uh, I hesitate to say corrupted, by the larger corporate entity, but influenced to uh, not get too far out of line. And anyway, the newsletter business is an excellent business if you have something different and original to say. But since newsletters today are almost all stock newsletters, if something bad happens to the stock market and the financial world in general, people won't want to hear about stocks or bonds or any of that stuff. Well, some will from some people, but
Much harder to make a business out of, though.
it really, yeah, you can't bet on a perpetual bull market. I think that's a bad idea, especially now.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Comment about the investor roundtable. Excuse me. It says the investor roundtable interviews are very interesting. Most recently, Intrepid Metals. And I'm quite interested in the evaluation process of seasoned investors like those on the panel. Of course, I'm most interested in Doug's methods throughout his natural resource investing career. Would Doug be able to estimate the percentage of his investments that were made under each of the following circumstances? I'll go through these quickly. Number one, a tip from someone, followed by much research and private talks with management. Number two, presentations at investment conferences, then informal discussions with management. Maybe similar origins to 1 and 2, but only invested after a site visit or two. Number four, a tip from a very trusted colleague with minimal research, maybe just out of trust to that colleague. Number five, minimum research because he already knows management and trusts them due to prior successful experiences with them.
All of the above. But it's very helpful to know who the management is because, frankly, uh, you've got to keep Pareto's law in mind, the 80-20 rule. And 80% of managements are incompetent or dishonest. At least that's the way I would apply Pareto's law. So
Yeah.
you're looking for that 20%, or hopefully the 20% of the 20% that are ultra honest and ultra competent. But yeah, sure, tips from people that I trust that explore highways and byways that I can't get into? Absolutely. So all of the
Well,
above.
yeah, like you're just talking about the broker this morning that mentioned that company that was trading it
Yeah,
4 times, right? It's like,
yeah.
that of course that begins a process where you look into it more and understand it more, for yourself. But yeah, I mean, tips can be useful. It's the tip from the shoe shine boy or your brother-in-law on Thanksgiving, that maybe you need to be more suspicious of.
Now consider the source of the tip. What do they know? Yeah, exactly correct. So, look, this is a good reason to know as much as you can about as many different things as you can. Very helpful in life. And two, know as many people as you can that can you can share insights with. So if you just stay in one place and only listen to Fox for your news, I mean your chances of survival as a potted plant are not as good as they might be.
Yeah, I mean, it's like earlier today, somebody asked me about one of the companies that Frank Giustra has some involvement with. And I'd heard it brought up once before, but I didn't know anything about it. So I just asked him, you know, uh, like how nice is it that I could just send him an email? He's like, well, I'm about to board a plane to Vancouver, but yeah, I am involved and here's what it is. And but it takes a long time to build those relationships and you have to do it, by trying to add value to them to make it so it's worthwhile having you around so that they, are so they're willing and able to share information with you or expertise when you ask.
Yeah, there's not many people that can send Frank an email to start with, and a lot less that can count on getting an answer. So you're right.
Frank's been always very great to me. So let's see. What are Matt and Doug's perspectives on Monero? It says over the last several years, Monero has become our family's most comforting asset, mostly out of reach from the violence of the state and an untraceable instant medium of exchange. Never mind the recent price appreciation.
Did Monero start out at 10 cents? Am I correct?
Something like that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, well, that was a big one that got away. I got a call from somebody that I didn't know. Long story how that happened. And he was looking for me to lend him $10,000 to invest in Monero back when I think it was a dime. And I didn't know him and didn't know enough about whether the story is valid or not. Turned out he's become a friend subsequently, a good guy. I should have done it because 10 cents to $400, assuming that,
No, it's
um,
525 today. 525.
Jesus, well, that would have been a long ball home run. So a lot of these get away from you. But anyway, that's my story with Monero. I don't own any. So
Yeah, yeah. I don't either. I mean, I like its virtues. They're certainly all there. I mean, it's what Bitcoin should have been with the privacy component. As I understand it. I'm not super technical, but that's my understanding of it. So let's see. With imbecile and chief gunboat diplomacy all about targeting China, will the CCP tighten up all export controls as they did in silver recently? Speculation is this would be repercussions to offset losses in South America and squeeze the West for rare earth military applications to better be prepared for any conflict over Taiwan or elsewhere.
well,
So will China essentially respond to Trump's recent behavior by tightening export controls?
well, I think in game theory, uh, it's been determined that the best way to play a game when somebody's doing something aggressive is a tit for tat response. In other words, if somebody does something bad to you, it's not a good idea. Yes, I know what Jesus says, but in game theory, it's not a good idea to turn the other cheek because the chances are, oh, I'll do it again and again. So a tit for tat response, which would mean China doing something hostile in return, is the most likely and actually the most intelligent thing. So I guess the answer to the question is yeah. Let's just hope that Trump doesn't do too much stuff that's too outrageously dangerous to cause that to happen.
I heard somebody hypothesize that maybe the recent bond collapse in Japan is somehow driven or encouraged by China. And I can't remember the mechanics he described and how that was actually would be done. But that certainly is something that has far-reaching impact. I mean, it's something like it was like a 5 sigma move in the Japanese bonds. I mean, it's wild and it's very disruptive to the global credit market. So, I mean, maybe that's the tat.
Maybe, but on the other hand, interest rates worldwide have gone down for 40 years from the early 80s till the early 2020s. And I think they're headed up for all kinds of reasons at this point. So I would continue to count on higher Japanese and higher American long-term interest rates. And whether China's got anything to do with it, well, I don't know. I mean,
No.
I don't sit on the
How?
board of the Chinese central bank,
Yeah.
but interest rates are going higher.
Yeah. Yeah. No doubt. Okay, I'm looking for alternatives, alternative hard asset investments beyond metals and industrial commodities. I would need mostly passive as I still have a full-time job and commitments. Basic research has me interested in 2 paths. Number one, farmland, livestock, crops, storage, ag equipment, and royalty or profit sharing of real businesses like construction equipment, logistics, transportation, or music, art, movies. Oh, he says, I know Matt has some experience in these. Have others found good investment opportunities with trusted counterparties? My only experience is with music and movies to a lesser degree. The royalties in those. I started this company called Royalty Exchange where we sell. I'm not involved in business anymore, but I still own a big piece of it. Shares of music royalties. So like I own a share in Dire Straits catalog and get paid every time you listen to a Dire Straits song on Spotify or it gets used in a TV show or whatever. So I think those are great alternative investments personally. And the Dire Straits catalog, for instance, they disbanded 35 years ago, and the royalties are still going up on it though, like because their music is being monetized in new and innovative ways. So I think that's interesting. But Doug, what do you think about the farmland, livestock, and any other royalty or profit sharing of real businesses?
I think it makes a lot of sense. I mean, uh, I've got a farm here in Uruguay that I think we have 60 hectares of soybeans, and here on my farm we got about 125 head of beef cattle. Uh, I don't pay any attention to it, so I've like most farmers, I haven't made any money, less than most actually. I mean, because I don't pay any attention to it, and you can't do that if you're going to be a successful farmer.
You're a
And
gentleman farmer, Doug.
I'm a gentle, yeah, I treat it like a nice backyard to look at. But my comment is right now the grains, soybeans, corn, wheat, are very, very cheap, selling around cost of production, more or less. So I think it's a good time to get into them. And as far as cattle are concerned, cattle are profitable right now. And are they going to stay profitable? I think they will. And the reason I think that is that both the Argentine and the American, and I suspect most other cattle herds, are at like 50-year lows, more
Yeah.
than that, actually. So it's going to take a long time to rebuild those herds. Uh, and the question is, well, are people going to eat more beef or less beef? Or is it going to be like wine that apparently, at least at the moment, people aren't drinking wine and wine consumption is going down? These things are hard to predict. But generally speaking, whether it's the grains or cattle, yeah, I think it's a good place to be right now.
Yeah, cattle's really good right now. And Michael Yon sent me a video the other day of a guy, a cattle rancher in the U.S., who did this historical comparison between an ounce of gold and cattle. And essentially, a healthy, productive cow over time has basically been equivalent to an ounce of gold and its value. And the difference between the two, though, is that the cow is productive. It's a productive asset. I mean, it does produce dividends. Of course, it requires lots of input and care and all this stuff along the way, but it's maintained its value like gold has, and it is a productive asset. So, yeah, I like it.
Yeah, it makes sense because actually the word pecuniary, which means things to do with money, comes from the Latin pecus, which means cow. So it's totally
Cows are
logical.
money. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember what I bought uh, uh, my first cattle herd down here. I thought to myself, how hard can this be? The weather's good, the grass grows, and every 2 years, a mama cow has a baby cow, and then 2 years later, that baby cow has another baby cow. And it just seems like they'll compound like rabbits, but cows ain't like rabbits.
They are not. There's definitely more management involved, for sure. Yeah. Okay, last question. Let's see. It says, as the US government ramps up QE, does this change anything with regard to the Mar-a-Lago Accord hypothesis? And that's something I talked about at the very beginning of last year. So the basic idea of that is that, Trump was looking to restructure the economic and monetary system. And a big part of that was for the dollar to devalue in relationship, in general, to help with the debts, but also in relation to foreign currencies, because they would just change the dynamics of trade. And QE is like a necessary ingredient in that, actually. So they
Sure.
need to do it. So it was like it was guaranteed to occur. Also, I mean, the dollar did lose on a relative basis to the basket of currencies at 10% last year. So that's also going along. Like if you look at, well, I was working with Lau on, creating the kind of the core thesis for this year, and that was, we discussed this specifically, and it's like, yeah, basically check that box, everything is moving according to plan, including the rise of gold. Is a big part of it too. So yeah, I don't know. You have anything to add to that, Doug?
All the world's currencies are fiat units. Almost all the world's governments are bankrupt. They have to finance themselves by printing more money. And it's much more serious now than it's ever been before, way more serious. So, yeah, it makes sense. And Trump has approximately zero understanding of economics or monetary theory. So, yeah, bet on a lower dollar.
Bet on a lower dollar. They're all oriented toward a lower dollar. And
They're in a position to make it happen.
I mean, if we can just kidnap the Venezuela's president, I think we can lower interest rates and print some money. you know,
I know we can do anything we want. Uh, well, fortunately for the people in political offices, the consequences of what they do are often indirect and therefore disguised and delayed and therefore further disguised. So that's how these criminals get away with a lot of the things that they do, and nobody blames them.
nope, not at all. All right, Doug, I think that's it for today. Thank you very much. We'll be back next week, and you have a good weekend.
Yeah, you too, Matt. It's a beautiful weekend here on the farm in Uruguay. So I'm going to
Enjoy.
hit the pool later today.
Awesome. Good. Enjoy it. All right. Talk to you later.
Thanks.